So I'm going to just briefly introduce this group and then I'm going to turn it over to James and Nathan. We have been working on this project for, gosh, going on 2 years now. And I wanted to say that James and Nathan are going to be doing the presenting today. But the three of us also presented at COSA, the SPED conference this year, and especially that there's a much larger group that has been working on this project. And so their names are going to be at the end of their presentation, but I wanted to give a shout out to all those that have contributed. And that includes the three of us and Alicia Miller from High Desert and Damon Massey from Northwest Regional, Deb and Chandra, Susan Payne, and a variety of others from ODE, and Andre Johnson from Southern Oregon. And so we appreciate all of them. And with that, James is actually going to get into the kind of background and how this group came to be. And then Nathan's going to tell us about how you all can use the resources going forward and also start contributing to grow the compendium of resources.
All right. Yeah, if Nathan wants to move slides for me. I don't have the power. All right. So I'm James Mannenbach. I'm a physical therapist at Southern Oregon ESD. And I'm going to get into a little bit of the backstory, where this came from and what it is. So it did start about a little over 2 years ago now at the Quality Indicators Conference that was held. And at that conference, we were looking at different resources that can be used to determine the best practice for PTs and OTs, and it could also be used as an evaluation tool or to guide our performance and to identify areas that were in need of improvement. There were several breakout sessions in that conference, and at one of the breakout sessions, this conversation started between Jessica, Damon Massey from Northwest, Alicia Miller, and myself. And we were looking at different, problems that we run into in our practice as school-based OTs and PTs. Some of those barriers were that, therapists come from different backgrounds. There's different levels of experience. Some of them require extra support, some of them less support to learn their new role in the schools. And also that individual districts had varied systems of service provision, how they use their resources, and how they onboard different therapists as to, what process they go through, or if there's not much of a process for all of them. So we discovered there's a few holes in best practice for, training people and bringing them on, and decided that there is a need for consistency within that process, better resources to ensure that all of the therapists in the schools are trained, and that through that we can provide better high quality services to the students. And it'll also support some of our staff retention issues if, therapists feel supported and trained well and know what they're doing. So from that conversation, our goal was to provide an efficient and a replicable onboarding scope and sequence process. And then we wanted to align that with the competencies that we were reviewing in that Quality Indicators conference. And then, of course, the group has grown from there with all of the names of people that were also shared from Jessica there. So we made it into a larger group. And now we're looking for more feedback from other therapists and administrators across the state so that we can build this into something useful for everybody. We've got a pretty good base and set here that we're going to train you on today. And then any inputs you have is welcome. All right, next slide. All right, so the OER Commons is where it's housed. We started with having this on a Google Drive and realized that these resources were too much for that, and that we needed to be somewhere centrally that can be accessed by anybody, even when this group moves on, different members move on to other things, or wherever we end up going on for our next role. So some of you may already know about the OER Commons, but for those who do not, I'm just going to give a quick review of what that is. We found the OER Commons through Deb Fitzgibbons and ODE kind of supporting us and showing us some ideas. And we felt that this was the best resource available to centralize all of our information and allow it to be accessible to everybody all over the state. But you can get into this information from anywhere in the country, honestly. So the OER Commons is a website that has open educational resources. There's your OER. And it's a wealth of information in relation to education. It's not just special education and the purpose that we're using it for today, but it's resources for all aspects of our educational system. And it's going to be here for a long time. So when you look at it, there's going to be all kinds of other areas you can get into if you're interested in them. It's hosted by ISKME, and that is the Institute for the Study of Knowledge Management in Education. A nice, big, long acronym there. But they are the host for the site, so got to give them some credit there also. And we'll move on to the next one. All right. Our scope and sequence, we wanted to align it with the competencies that we were reviewing that day, like we stated. And we wanted it to be something that meets the needs of therapists at all levels. So whether you're onboarding or whether you're already on and you're more experienced, but you just need a little bit of information, we wanted it to be able to cover that wide range. We divided it into three, what we called training buckets. And those three training buckets kind of organize it for you. The first one is a special education overview. And what that shows us is information on the SPED process, IEPs, what IDEA is. We're looking to get some information on IFSPs in there, all that kind of information. The second training bucket is our roles as therapists in the educational system, and how that system and service provision works compared to like the traditional medical model. So I know some people are looking for information on differences between roles, educational versus medical, and how to show that. And then the third training bucket is district and ESD specific procedures. So that's more specific resources from a variety of programs throughout the state. It ranges from provision of resources and services for specific programs to specific protocols used within the scope of that program or the scope of a specific discipline, OT, PT, like procedures, equipment, procedures, braces, diagnosis specific items and procedures that you can use. So it allows for kind of a bank of resources that can be tailored to specific needs. And that's some of the stuff where it doesn't matter how long you've been practicing, you might just want to see how other people use it in the state, and we'll have information stored there. And then as far as the sequence goes, that's a little bit more open and flexible, depending on the needs of the specific program or the needs of the specific therapist who's trying to learn it. So it's flexible depending on how you want to get into it. Once you look at what's in there, you can kind of determine what works best for your program and what your needs are. But what we did is we put priority levels indicated on the information, but those priority levels are more of a guideline than a rule. So you can use that as you start to get used to it and then kind of move along from there to see what works best for you. And that's our scope and sequence. And now I'm going to hand it off to the amazing Nathan.
Amazing, Nathan. That's yeah, cool. Thanks, James.
No problem.
Hi everyone. So yeah, before I get into kind of talking about the OER Commons, and I'll actually be providing basically a virtual tutorial on how to actually access all of these, because one of the things when we presented at COSA last calendar year, what we found was that for a lot of people, it was just very difficult to navigate this new resource, right? There's just so many ways you can get to these resources. There are so many ways and methods to find the things that you need. But like any website, especially with things that like are repository, can be kind of difficult if you're not super familiar with it. So I will go ahead and start with that, and you'll have to excuse if I'm like a bit slow with moving things around. I'm like managing both the slideshow and trying to get all of this screen sharing stuff. Also, I saw a lot of my Northwest ESD folks here. Hi. And I also saw Kara Rich. She went to school with me. So hi, Kara. I hope you're doing well. So I got OER Commons pulled up right here. So the website address is oercommons.org. You do not need to make an account in order to access the information. But it is highly recommended that you do, because like James was saying, and the original intention of having it on the OER Commons was for people to be able to add training resources. And I'm speaking from someone who, like Deb had mentioned, this is my second year working in the schools. This is my second year as being an occupational therapist. And with that came a lot of, questions on, oh, okay, well, how do I work in a school in Oregon specifically? Because I did a lot of my clinical training out in Missouri. And as we know, school districts and just education stuff just are very different from state to state. So when I was working on my doctoral project, I was like, is there a way for me to contribute to helping new OTs, new PTs, or at least new to the schools to help them kind of get their, you know, help them step up so that they're able to feel more competent and thus provide better services overall. And that was where the OER Commons came in. So in order to access our specific group, you want to go to hubs. And you can go on See All Hubs right here. And you're going to scroll all the way down until you find the Oregon Open Learning Hub. So again, you want to go on Hubs, See All Hubs, go all the way down, Oregon Open Learning. You want to go ahead and click on that. And our group is all the way down in education, partners, and practices. And we're lucky we're the very first group that pops up under that. So you want to click ahead and go on training and resources for school-based therapists. And the way in which we have designed this particular group is both in our different buckets. So you'll see district ESD specific procedures, OT, PT roles in educational settings, and overview of special education. But we also have them all nestled under here as well. This is one feedback that we would love to hear from you all in terms of how to best access these different resources. Because as you see, um, some of the limitations of OER Commons is we're able to click on this and we're able to open up and view all these different resources here. But let's say we wanted to go and nest our folders a little bit more. And let's say we want to break down district ESD specific procedures into more. Unfortunately, with the OER Commons group, you're not able to do more than 2 down, which is why we decided to also try and do buckets, sort everything by their own buckets so that we can have specific folders for each. So if there are emergency evacuation procedures and you wanted to remix, and I'll get into what remixing means in a little bit. This is where we could put additional resources as it relates to emergency evacuation procedures. Now, again, this is the very first time we're really showing this to a larger group. This has been, like James said, a 2+ year process of us really just gathering and creating all of these resources that spread across different school districts and ESDs. Um, and so we started with the Google Drive, and now we moved everything onto the OER Commons. So this is the very first time where we felt that it was ready to at least be trial run and be presented to a larger group, which is you all. So that's where you can see all of these different resources here. So going back to all group resources, let's go ahead and open up a resource and what that looks like. So one thing with the OER Commons, and this is where I'm going to be talking about remixing. The great thing about OER Commons is one of the concerns that we had, and I guess I would address it that way, is, well, how do you create resources that apply to all of Oregon? Because, we know that in different regions of Oregon, there are different needs. And what is needed over here at the Northwest ESD might look a bit different than, let's say, James's part of Oregon. So with remixing, you're able to take a resource let's say right here, and you would be able to remix it and make it personalized to your specific region of Oregon or school district. That way, we're able to all start from a template of where, you know, we have developed what best practices look like in general, and we're able to personalize it based on our locations. So for here, you see we have an overview section due to variations in ESD district operations. The following are suggested activities that a trainer could provide to new hires as a way to further orient them to the ESD's district's operations. And here it'll go over the different types of activities that you can do. And if you were to remix or copy this, which I'm not able to right now because I'm not signed in, and I'll sign in just so I can show you the remix option in just a little bit. You'll be able to actually hit the remix button and add different attachments or change up what the suggested activities look like. And you can title it, let's say ESD district and getting started in a new district, training Northwest ESD. Or I work in Hillsborough School District. Let's say that there are specific things to Hillsborough School District that we would like new hires to know. We can go ahead and put, Northwest ESD, HSD, or just dash HSD, OT, HSD, PT. Now, before I move forward, what questions do you all have on this? I'll give some time to put in some questions in the chat or ask it just by unmuting. A lot of it right now is a bit self-explanatory, but I would like to take that time. We have like basically a whole 45 minutes, which is why I'm going very slowly.
There is a ton of information in there. And I know we can spend 45 minutes looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So if anybody has any questions, yeah, throw them in the chat and we'll help Nathan and James monitor the chat.
Okay.
I also want to say that if you go in, when you go in and explore, please let us know if you have any issues in access with the OER Commons. We are going to share this recording and the feedback with them at ISKME. And if you have any suggestions for improvement, please share those with us so we can pass them on. They're very interested in supporting us. Accessibility to the site itself is a top initiative for them. So let us know how your experience is. Nathan, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you, Deb. I really appreciate that. So I went ahead and logged in to my account. And now, and this is why it's important to make an account. And it's super easy to make an account. It's like, like you're signing up for Facebook or LinkedIn or any, Magic School AI, any of those websites. So you see that I now have a bunch of different options. I can actually save it into different folders. I can create a new folder, which because of where we're at with the training and resources for school-based therapists, I do not recommend this because what it does, it actually makes it publicly available for everyone to view. There is another way to add it to your own thing, which I can show later on. But what I really wanted to show was remix. And after I show the live tutorial, we'll also go and review it again in the slides that I have after this. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of remixing. So I went ahead and remixed. And let's say that I want to make it specific to Northwest ESD. What I'm doing right now is it basically copies the entire lesson, or you can think of them as almost like slides, into a different thing, kind of like you're copying a document in Google Docs. I'm able to rename it ESD district and getting started in a new district dash Northwest ESD. If your ESD prefers you to have image, you're able to add an image there, so that way they're extra sure that this is coming from your specific ESD or district. Then you're able to create different sections. And so if I wanted to make it specific to Northwest ESD, let's say, for suggested activities, some things that I can make sure I want my Northwest ESD folks to know is you can go to tech and make sure you have the following equipment. And you can go ahead and do laptop and charger, badge. What else do we need here at the Northwest CSD, folks? I'm drawing a blank. Your school district badge, which I guess you would go to your school district to get that badge. And the procedures might look different depending on where you're at. And so after I do this, you can either insert a new section. Let's say there's even more stuff that your ESD needs your people to know. They can go ahead and do that. You can actually also add in PDFs or Word documents as well. And that's as simple as having it available in your downloads file or wherever it is on your computer, choosing the file, and then adding it. You can also add websites to it, and then you name the resource. I'm not going to add any stuff right now, but we can go ahead and click on next. Then we have errors, and it's because I had a resource. So I want to cancel that. Now, when it says describe resource, that was this page right here, the overview. And that will just give like that summary of what the person should be expecting here. And you'll also have different tags so that, users, new hires, or, current staff are able to go in and say, okay, this is applicable to both occupational therapy and physical therapy. So that's what this describe the resource is. And then you can add different subjects. And because this is an educational platform, this isn't just for us. We're actually kind of retrofitting it to meet our needs, but this is where teachers can also post different lesson plans. So this is actually a great resource to show your gen ed and special ed teachers, because as you saw in here, the hub, there are various hubs. I saw that the University of Hawaii has one. I know that Missouri uses what is the OER Commons. And so teachers are able to look up different lesson plans if they need to kind of make their job a bit easier as well. For the purposes of us, it's a great repository that isn't centralized to Google Docs. So if a staff member leaves and you lose access, we no longer have access to those resources, which, as a new hire last year, what I've commonly heard was, oh yeah, no, we had this, but blah, blah, blah didn't share the resources, or we didn't get access to their drive. And so it's lost in the internet. So you can go ahead and do that. Add the education levels. It doesn't really matter in this degree because we kind of already know who's it for. It's graduate, professional, career, technical. That's what I typically just use. Material types. So you can go ahead, and this is great for accessibility, right? You can go ahead and tell what specific things that resource should be containing. And your ESD, whoever is, your administrator or you yourself as a therapist who wants to contribute to creating a supportive environment within the workplace, can add material that is, a teaching and learning strategy. Let's say you want to, I think of, when I try to provide trainings, whole class trainings, those tier 2 services on interoception, and I want to make that available to, this particular group. I can label it as teaching and learning strategy. We don't need educational standards. Our educational standards are professional standards that I hope we all work and abide by. and we can designate the different types of media formats. And then we can type in our keywords. Keywords are basically tags. Those are like the hashtags on Instagram or Facebook, so that we're able to easily locate what that is in the search function. And then I'm not going to click publish because one, I'm not actually creating a Northwest ESD specific resource. But when you click publish, and this is a question that I have gotten from COSA and other people that I've shown it to, the concern is, well, if it's so open source and anyone is able to post, how are we going to content manage? How do we ensure that the content, a bad actor is going to just constantly create different resources and it's going to flood the page? Well, we actually have, it goes through a second layer of approval process. So, by and large, that our team will be approving those resources. But let's say, there's something that, we know that is not going to be, that doesn't speak towards our ethics or towards our mission or our mission statement and all of those things. That's where we have that second layer so that not anyone can just post it because we recognize, there's a balance between just having anyone post anything and ensuring that the resources that we do have available is of high quality. And that's where we have a review process as well. So if I were to publish it, I would click publish. It would be notified to our team, and then our team will look at it, and then we'll click, okay, that sounds good. And then it will appear on the hub. So I will go ahead and get out of here. So what questions do you have about that for now? I don't really expect you all to have too many questions. I'm kind of like overloading with the new thing. But I'm hoping that this is at least a dipping your toes in the water through guided access. All right. So
And I love the concept that all of this can be done in an individual's time, that throughout the year we have new people coming on. And I know you said this and alluded to, it's hard to find time to bring new people on board, but this is the whole reason this resource is here. Thank you.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead. Now, and I want to be transparent with these things because, if us as therapists are going to want to use this, I don't want to paint this as like this is the cure-all. We're all going to now be on the same page and it's going to be easy to access. That's not what I'm about. And this is why it's important we get your feedback on this. One of the issues that we ran into in COSA was there's no way to actually get back to the TIES therapist group so that you can go back and actually access different resources. So there are two solutions to doing that. You can either press the back button, and I'm going to cross my fingers that it actually does send me back because I did sign in. You can either press the back button here and it will send you back. Or you can go the long way and go back to the Oregon Open Learning, go to Education Partners and Practices, and then click Training and Resources for School-Based Therapists. So those are two ways. The third way, which is the hidden third way that many forget about, is just open a link in a new tab for the resource. That way you're able to jump in between and go back. Now this is going to be recorded, so hopefully if y'all run into those troubleshooting issues, you're able to reflect back on this recording and we're able to troubleshoot that. All right, so let's explore what is exactly in the Training and Resources for School-Based Therapists group of the top section. Yes, you are able to get that as well. One thing that you can do is you can save it if you make an account to see my groups, and that way it's readily available right there. And you can see that. So I'll go ahead and leave this group. And this is what you will be seeing as someone who hasn't joined the group yet. You can click join this group. It'll turn to this, and then it will show up here. as part of my groups. As you can see, I'm also part of the Oregon Accessible Education Materials. And so, you can join as many groups as you want. That way you're able to easily access these different materials. The other thing is you can contribute to this group. You can either submit it from the web or open author. Open author basically means you will be creating something similar to that resource that we just saw, where you will title everything, you'll describe the main content, you'll do your attachments, all of that stuff. Submitting from web is where you would, let's say there's a website that you think would be very helpful. That's where you can link it directly. And then I'm just gonna, for the sake of this, I'm just gonna put OERcommons.org. You'll write and describe it. So what is the OER Commons? I would type a little bit about that. And this is where things get a little bit complicated, but I'll go over this, but I do not want this to deter you from contributing. Because OER Commons is a free resource, there are things called original licenses of these resources. Now, there are videos that you can go over with yourself. And I know you as an individual therapist, this might seem like a lot. This is where I would encourage your administration or your supervisor to introduce this resource to them so they can look into what this looks like. And during a all team meeting, we can have an agenda item where it talks about how to navigate the OER Commons and what does producing different resources look like. Essentially, what these mean, they have a handy guide here where it's a view resource. And I don't know why you are. So basically, what it should be popping up, and I don't know why it's not popping up now. Haha, something to know. It would usually go talk about the different ways, what each of these different symbols mean. So a website has different copyright things. So let's say it's a specific curriculum, right? They might actually have that trademark. And so we would not be able to actually readily share that because it would be going against their copyright. And that would be illegal. So you would need to specify what that looks like. And basically that means um, that would mean whether or not you're able to remix the resource. I'm not going to get much more into the weeds there. For the most part, leave that to our team to go ahead and vet these resources. You just submit and we will vet it and we will be like, okay, I think there's a copyright issue here. We'll send it back and we'll say, hey, let's fix this. What I want you all to really just focus on is contributing to the group. Okay. What questions do you have there? What concerns do you have about contribution to our group?
Nathan, you've kind of hinted at the frustration you might get whenever you first start to explore in here, and you were giving workarounds, and I like that. Again, information we need to share with ISME. But occasionally you're going to hit the back button and you're going to get gobbledygook. And just know it, that you're not alone, that it's not because you're a tech failure, it's because there's some glitches in here. And we intend to have a conversation or relationship with them to fix them. But just know that it's not you and never fear. When we look at how everything is laid out, how are we going to make it more appealing and easier with learning pathways? These are all conversations that our group is having. And Alicia is really excited about learning more about AI and creating some overview videos and stuff. And you probably have that in your notes to talk about already. But again, making sure that this is usable by our state, by the therapists, without a whole lot of hoops to jump through. Please get excited about it because we are.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb. And this is something that I think this is a great case example of a remix. So Alicia, who is also on our team, um, what had happened was when we had uploaded the original document that talked about a caseload up and running, it had all of the headers. When you go through the second step of the review of for information, I assume you will pick up any. Yes, exactly, Michael. Um, Exactly. And that's where, that's why we have that vetting process as well. Because we want to make sure that, if there are specific licenses that, we want to make sure that we're attributing the correct licenses to the resources. And again, that is something that our team works on. We just want you all to submit. If you are interested in joining our team, please feel free to email Deb or Jessica about all of that so that we can get you all up and running with that because it really is a team effort to really get an entire statewide, um, you know, um, standards of practice in place. So, so this is a great example of a remixing. So the original resource, caseload up and running checklist, we had a we had all the different documents and we're like, oh my gosh, this is great. So when we started doing another review of it, this was like very early on in the process, we noticed that there was a heading that was one of the school districts had their heading on the document. Well, that was not okay for the school district to have, but they were okay with having the content, just not their specific header. So what Alicia ended up doing, she ended up remixing it, um, altered the document so that it was in compliance with the school district and her ESD, and she went ahead, remixed it, re-uploaded the resources, and so now it's in compliance. We deleted the old resource, so now we actually have everything in compliance. And a more well-defined resource that is generalized, but is also making sure that we're respecting the district's desire to not have their headers in any of the documents that we post. Okay, so there is that. And I know I said this earlier, but let's actually go ahead and see all the different resources that we have available right now. So you can see that we have a total of 37 different resources. Some of the things that we talk about here are emergency evacuation procedures, equipment protocols, documentation and navigating Google Suite, caseload up and running checklist, the equipment maintenance and inspection, feeding protocols, the ESD/district and getting started in a new district checklist, an orthopedic equipment training, wellness and prevention, who does what in special education. So delineating the roles of OT, PT, and I believe SOP is in here as well. So this is a great resource, not just for a new hire, but maybe even providing to case managers who, they go up to you, you're like, oh, you're PT, right? You can help us with equipment. And I'm like, no, I'm OT. And, I can route you to the PT if you'd like. We have service logs and documentation. I can see a great resource on this as, we as a state are moving more towards at least Northwest ESD in our school districts. We're moving to Synergy versus ORSPED. So I can see some resources here because I know that navigating that can be fun to put it in a positive light. We have HIPAA, FERPA, and educational records, goal writing, consultation model. So those coming in from, out of state or maybe a district that was more direct service model. the Oregon Practice Acts for Occupational and Physical Therapy, which could be very helpful for us as therapists to really know what our scope and practice is based on Oregon law. OT and PT services in school, again, delineating the roles and the differences between medical model versus more of a community school-based model. We have the school-based OT and PT manual, discharge planning, evaluation, SPED eligibility, and RIS. This is something that we're trying to get ISKME to really work on, is a sort feature, because we thought, hey, maybe if it's sorted by alphabetical, we'll put A, so it always appears at the top. Do you have a process in place to keep information up to date and relevant? So one of the processes that we have is our team. We meet. We haven't met this month yet, but we meet fairly regularly where we will be talking about this. And because we're still in the early days, Brandy, right now it's about getting the resources on and then developing that process after. So like I said, this is like the very first time we're really introducing this to everyone. But I love that. And I love that you're thinking about that because it is important, right? Things are changing every single year. So I would encourage you all who are interested in this to join our team so that we can start to develop that process, because that is on our next agenda, our next on our to-do list. And maybe that'll be in our next, oh man, talking too much. And then what to expect for your first year. This was a draft. This was just for us to kind of like experiment. What did that look like? If, you accidentally published something, and for some reason it just went through um, the whole process, it would appear as a lesson. You don't need to worry about that. But those are our resources so far. And these are things, again, you can remix, you can add your district specific or ESD specific documents so that you can build that community within your ESD so that, new staff feel like they're able to do it. And, current staff feel like there's a place to refer back to any information that they may have forgotten about. Whew, okay. I think I covered everything on my agenda. Is there anything, team, that I missed that I should be talking about?
I think you did a great job.
All righty. So it's 8:49. Perfect. So let's go back to the slideshow. And so, like I said, we have an entire slide deck for you all, where if you don't want to listen to me at 1.5 or 2 times speed or scrub the video to find exactly where you need it, because I know I rambled, we have a step-by-step tutorial on how to do all of this. And they are links. So you can click and it will show you how to create an account. You can click and you can directly link yourself to this specific group. So that's I guess route number 4 to find our group. Step-by-step instructions, how to join, training, and resources. So we even have a document, or at least the OER Commons created a Google Doc for you that walks you step by step. Okay. Then we have contributing to the group, how to add new resources. OER Commons has one, as well as a remixing resources. We also have a link to all the other topics. So you can think of this as almost like an FAQ. And not only that, we also pulled everything out for you as well. So you don't need to navigate the links. So you can see how to create a resource. And all of that, how to remix. Yes. So this is something that you all can share with your team, or you can share here via chat or outside. Based on the different resources that we went on, what is one resource you would like to review with your OT/PT team? And the second question, what is one resource you know your OT/PT team has that you'd like to share on OER Commons? So I'm going to go ahead and link our group, have you all take some time to go through all of that. And I will be here and our team will be here as you go ahead and explore it, because I believe the next one is just giving thanks to everyone.